Back, we are extra credit class from ACI course 5 about the 4 powers of purification. It's July 14, 2024. Let's gather our minds here as we usually do. Please bring your attention to your breath until you hear from me again. Now bring to mind that being who for you is a manifestation of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. And see them there with you. They are gazing at you with their unconditional love for you. Smiling at you with their holy great compassion. Their wisdom radiates from them. That beautiful golden glow encompassing you in its light. And then we hear them say, bring to mind someone you know who's hurting in some way. Feel how much you would like to be able to help them. Recognize how the worldly ways we try fall short. How wonderful it would be if we could also help them in some deep and ultimate way, a way through which they will go on or would go on to stop their distress forever. We're learning that this is possible. So I invite you to grow that wish into a longing. And that longing into an intention. Then turn your mind back to your precious holy being. We know that they know what we need to know, what we need to learn yet, what we need to do yet to become one who can help this other in this deep and ultimate way. And so we ask them, please Please teach us that. And they are so happy that we've asked. Of course, they agree. Our gratitude arises. We want to offer them something exquisite. And so we think of the perfect world they are teaching us how to create. We imagine we can hold it in our hands and we offer it to them, following it with our promise to practice what they teach us, using our refuge prayer to make our promise. Here is the great earth, filled with fragrant incense and covered with a blanket of flowers. The great mountain, 4 lands, wearing the jewel of the sun and the moon. In my mind, I make them the paradise of a Buddha and offer it all to you. By this deed, may every living being experience the pure world. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryantayami. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may we reach Buddhahood for the sake of every living being. I go for refuge until I am enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the highest community. Through the merit that I do in sharing this class and the rest, may all beings reach their total awakening for the benefit of every other. All right. So thank you to everyone for their kindness and generosity. I appreciate your offerings. So we've learned the details about this process called karma, movement of the mind and what it motivates. And we've learned how those imprints from our behaviors are carried and influenced and eventually ripen into our experiences. They give their results. And we've learned how any one of those imprints can be the one that projects us into our next life at the end of this one. And we've learned how imprints of unkindness, imprints of selfishness, or even just imprints of disrespect, like not caring, will project us into a next life called a lower rebirth, a worse suffering, lightning, a worse suffering than anything that we've ever experienced as human. And so, what comes to mind when we hear that? I think naturally we'd be thinking back this life. What kinds of deeds have I done? I mean, I know, right? I know what I've done. And so, my mind's thinking about big things, little things, things that have happened to me, and my reactions to them. And, no doubt I've been selfish. I've been hurtful. I've been disrespectful. Like I didn't know any better. I thought I was doing the best I could. But now that I understand, it's like, egads. Then when we look at our outer world, there are things that we see that we don't like. I see food less nutritious or less available, crops failing, product shortages, climate change, right? Weather severity, people fighting. But I also see like near global connectivity. I see many, many more service organizations that I remember knowing about when I was younger. I see actually eradicating some infectious diseases. I see increased speed of travel, the ability to get places that before you couldn't get to. I see information explosion, but information available to everybody. Whereas it used to be, you could only get specialized information if you studied it or worked hard to find it. What we're seeing in our outer world is the ripening results of our own past deeds, seeds, imprints in our mind. From when I was a teenager, probably not so much. But since forever, seeds in my mind since forever. And so it comes to mind, what can I do with these negative seeds that I know I have based on what I remember being like in this lifetime, and based on the negative stuff that I see in my world that seems to be sustained over a period of time, which implies that I've got a lot of those seeds. And so I can assume I have more of them, hopefully not many more. Like, am I stuck? And fortunately, we're not stuck, because those imprints in our mind are changeable. They are changing. And so they are influenceable. And they're influenceable in the sense of adding to them, so increasing their strength. And they're influenceable in the sense of damaging them, detracting from them, to make them less able to get over that threshold into ripening. The more powerfully we do our deeds, the more powerfully the karmic seed is made, we learned. And that's true for our attempt to plant seeds that damages the seeds that are already there. And so just as our 4 parts of a path of action, if we have all 4 parts at the highest degree, we plant seeds with the highest power. when we're doing a purification practice, similarly, there are 4 parts to that purification, cleaning, karma. Ooh, it's starting to rain. The extent to which we have these 4 parts done strongly is the extent to which we damage the negative seeds that we're trying to damage. All right, so it's not an all or nothing. So the 4 parts of a path of action, when we are applying them to our purification practice, they become, called the 4 powers of purification. There is a general purpose purification prayer that has evolved, that has been used in the monastic tradition, for thousands of years, hundreds of years. And it's available to us. I sent it to you. I'll give an oral transmission of it. It's used for the monastic practice called sojong, which is the mind training of cleaning out every 2 weeks on the full moon and the new moon. The monastics gather and they do a ceremonial ritual that is this ritual of purifying any wrongs that have been done. And they use this general confession prayer. In that prayer, it says, I confess my bad deeds done since beginningless time. So it covers everything. And if it was all we have to do is say that prayer every 2 weeks, there wouldn't be so many crowds in samsara. Say the lamas again and again, right? It takes more than just saying the prayer. The prayer, we can use the prayer as an encapsulation, but we still need to have all 4 powers done in order for the prayer's effect to be strong. We've heard the story of Lord Atisha, this great practitioner, great teacher. He would carry a stupa with him. And anytime he recognized he'd had a negative thought, he'd stop. And he'd get out his stupa, he'd prostrate, he'd do his 4 powers and his confession ceremony. And it didn't matter what he was doing or where he was going. Like, stop, everybody, right? And he'd go do his purification practice. Other lamas would have a little stash of white stones and black stones, and they would carry them with them. And when they had a positive thought, a kindness thought, right, whatever they're determining, they'd take a white stone and they'd put it in one pocket. And then when they had a negative thought, they'd put a black stone in the other pocket. And at the end of the day, they'd check, do I have more white than black? And then they'd do their 4 powers of purification on the black stones, what they were about. And I don't know whether they did or not, but I presume they would do a rejoicing practice, a coffee meditation on their white stones. But it's a way of tracking. We have the 6 times book. We have the Keep My Vows app, right? If you don't have it on your phone and you want it, it's available. A way of just tracking our behaviors. The point is our mind, when our mind knows it's being watched, it behaves differently. And so just simply stopping and writing something 2, 3, 5, 6 times a day is actually enough for our mindfulness to grow. I mean, it's not going to grow to its maximum simply doing that. But knowing that we're tracking our behavior, counting negative and positives, we become more alert to our reactions and responses. So whatever system works to inspire you versus oppress you, right? Find some way to be tracking your behavior, particularly tracking our vows once we have vows. So this confession practice, purification practice, it has 4 parts, and all 4 parts need to be present. They need to be done for the impact to be such that the seeds of the deeds that we're purifying to be damaged. Geshe-la suggests that we learn the 4 powers and how to do them like swiftly, and then have the confession prayer with us or memorize it and use it like at the end of the 4 powers, like as icing on the cake. So the 4 powers in English, they can be called the 4 R's, the letter R: refuge, regret, restraint, and remedy. And it just is easy to remember them in that way. The order is taught differently in different places in the scripture. The order isn't so important as having all 4 parts happening intact. So in this teaching, the first is called Tengitop. It means foundation force. We're calling it refuge for the R. The actual term Tengitop is usually used to describe the being having to do with the activity that we are confessing. So it seems to say, oh, this foundation force is thinking about the one that I acted towards that made the seeds that I'm wanting to purify. And some teachings say that. Our lineage says, no, actually, the highest meaning of the foundation force is the foundation from which we push ourselves back up once we've fallen down. So if we're walking along in a swamp with quicksand, and you fall down in the swamp with quicksand, you can't push yourself up. The harder you push, the sinker you go. But if you're walking along a city stream, and it's actually got concrete on the bottom of it, and you fall down, you just get right back up because you've got this solid ground that you push against. So this solid ground, the foundation force, is our refuge, our actual taking refuge. But by refuge, we mean reaffirming our understanding of emptiness and karma, our knowledge, right? One's own knowledge of how karma is the process through which we experience our world and create the causes for experiences that we will have. So not blind faith. Refuge is not blind faith. It's, oh, these teachings, the ones who teach me, the ones who have experienced the realizations directly themselves, I rely upon them. They are my foundation. And I rely especially on what they've taught me, right? That what I see myself think, say, do towards others creates the circumstances of my future. And so this first force in our wanting to purify some negativity that we have is to recall emptiness and karma of that situation, of what I did and why I did it. So it may take a while to get our mind wrapped around, exactly how we're purifying a particular event. But once we have it clear in our mind, we go for refuge, right? And it can simply be, I go for refuge in Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, but not until we've thought it through. Oh, I reacted in that way because, fill in the answer. And now I see that reaction has planted seeds that will come back to me likely as blah, 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 fill in the blank. And I won't like it when it does. And when that all happened, I was blaming the other person, the other situation for whatever was happening that made me think that if I act this way, I could solve the problem. I could get what I want, or I could avoid what I don't want. And now I see that what I planted in my mind is some situation coming back to me where somebody's doing that to me. Right? Thinking that through is our refuge. Doggone it anyway. So when we're looking for what it is we're wanting to clean out, wanting to purify, the confession prayer says all those harmful deeds, all those negative deeds since beginningless time. And we learned a little bit about what it is to be a negative deed, a harmful deed. It's not in the deed. It's in what will the result of the deed be like when it comes back to me. If it's gonna be unpleasant, then the deed is a negative deed and we want to purify it, clean it out. If that deed, when it comes back to me, will be, yay, fine, that's all right with me, you don't need to purify it. So we're looking for those negative deeds, meaning those responses that we've had towards others that when they come back to me, not even necessarily me, Sarani, that they're going to come back to, but me, anybody, whatever I'm going to be in the future, when it ripens upon me, will I like it? Many nuances in there. So part of the foundation force, for some reason, is the actual confessing of the deed. And this tradition says you can put a Buddha image in front of you, right? Lord Atisha used a stupa because a stupa represents body, speech, and mind of enlightened being. And then you talk to that image and you say, oh man, I yelled at that guy. I was just already irritated and shit, and he pushed my buttons and he knows better than that, but he did it anyway. And I just couldn't control myself and I yelled at him. I blamed him. And, by the time it was all done, I realized that I made seeds that I don't want to keep in my mind. And so please hear me, Buddha. I'm confessing, I'm telling you about it. And then in the monk's sojong, you're supposed to like go around the circle and say, like I confess. And that's really hard to do in a group. Somewhere in between is have a confession buddy, someone you trust, someone who understands why you're doing it. They don't themselves necessarily have to be a Buddhist person, but it's helpful if they are. And you want someone who will hold what you say confidential. You want someone whose acceptance of you is like open and unrelated to what you're going to say to them. And non-judgmental. It's a little bit different than being like openly accepting. And someone who will just let it go once you've confessed it, right? They won't carry it with them. And next time they see you, say, hey, how's your purification about blah, blah, blah going? Which tells us what kind of confession partner we need to be. Totally confidential, right? Openly accepting, non-judgmental, go so far as to say compassionate. Yeah, I understand where that would come from. And then let it go when it's done. So you don't really even remember next time. So when we're setting up our refuge and we're thinking through the behavior and saying, oh, karma, that planted a seed I'm not going to like, that naturally leads into the second power called the power of regret. Nampar Sin Jimpe Top. It means to rip out from the heart force. Regret, destruction force, which is the power of regret. So there's this story that explains regret better than anything I've ever heard. These three hot, tired, in a hurry guys stop into the bar for some refreshment. And in their hurry, they say to the barkeep, we'll have that. And they just point to a bottle. In their hurry, the barkeep just grabs that bottle, pours the 3 glasses. The guys go, salute, and down the hatch. And a few moments later, one of the guys seizes and drops over dead. And the other 2 guys are going. And a few moments later, the second guy seizes and drops over dead. The third guy has regret. Can you feel it? Whoa, I shouldn't have drunk that. Not, oh, I'm so stupid. Oh, there I did it again. Oh, I'll never be good enough. Just plain, right? Fill in the 4-letter word. And he seizes and drops over dead. Regret. when you recognize, I just did something that planted seeds in my mind that are going to come back to hurt me and hurt others and delay my enlightenment, which is like the worst hurting of others. And I just regret, like, seriously, sorry. Again, no judgment other than just, damn, I did it again. The strength of that regret and the rapidity with which it arises to us after the deed, like how soon after, is a really, really powerful influence on those seeds that have been planted. So we've heard that it takes a certain amount of time for the completed deed to make the collected karma and then committed karma, right? Strong enough to get into the queue. Even if the end of the queue, the ripening of the queue is, 2000 lifetimes later, it's in the queue. And as it's going along, it's getting stronger by similar deeds, weaker by opposite deeds. So it's growing, those seeds are growing. And then, finally, we have regret. Oh, doggone, right? I did that when I was 10. Now I know better. That was terrible. I really, really regret it, right? That regret is powerful and useful. But if when I was 10, as soon as I did whatever that deed was, I knew enough to go, oh man, I just did something that's going to come back to me, painful for everybody involved. I really, really regret it. Those seeds, they've gotten collected, but maybe the regret is even enough to keep them from being committed, meaning committed to being in the queue. Yeah. So the sooner our regret arises, the more effective it is at damaging or lessening the strength of those negative deeds. His Holiness calls it the intelligent regret of an educated Buddhist. It's a very logical state of mind that comes out of this need for refuge, because we recognize we did something unkind, selfish, etc. So when we're establishing our refuge and we're thinking through the deed and we're looking at the karma and emptiness, this regret naturally arises. We don't really necessarily have to force it. And once we start to feel it, that's when we grow it bigger. Like, think of the three guys at the bar. Yikers, right? I just did something similar. So that our regret goes from intellectual to also deep, deep feeling. That leads to the third force, called the restraint force. It means we need to include in our four powers the restraint from repeating the deed. And this is why purification is so difficult, because it's so hard to stop those habitual negative behaviors. That's what it is to be habitual, right? It comes up without thinking about it. It's our reactions to circumstances. And by the time we have the reaction, we're doing the reaction. And so Geshe-la says, 4 powers of purification is not like a morning after pill. right? You can't just, ooh, whoops, right? And go fix the problem with just, one deed and be done with it. And the reason is because we regret a particular reaction, and we say, oh, that was so awful, I really do regret, I understand karma, I really don't want to do it again, I'm going to determine that I'm not going to do it ever again. And then 10 minutes later, right, the so-and-so pushes your button again, and bam, you repeat the deed that, 10 minutes ago, an hour ago, you said, oh, that was such a rotten deed, I'm not ever going to do it again. So it's not helpful to come to that conclusion when we're trying to clean out negativities that are habitual. Yes, probably, we have some seeds from this lifetime, from when we were younger, that we will never be in that circumstance again. And it's a negativity we want to clean out and purify. And we can say, I will never do that again, and actually uphold it. But, and that's worth doing, right? If we've got any of those kinds of things in our history. But for our habitual mentally afflicted behaviors that we actually think are okay, we need to apply this power of restraint, an intentional determination of the circumstance within which we will not repeat that behavior that would replant that seed that we're trying to damage. And so if it is, for instance, criticizing back when somebody criticizes us, it happens so quickly. And we know that, that particular person at the office seems to be the one that has direct access to my criticize back button. Then in our power of restraint, we don't say, oh, I will never criticize anybody, even in my mind. We say, that one who's the most likely one to set off my mental criticism, I determine that for the first 3 minutes that I see that person, I will think only good thoughts of that person. 3 minutes. That's all we need to do. Make it 30 seconds if you need to. Something that we can achieve, because then we have our power of restraint intact. We have one of the four, right? We need all four. They need to be strong. So it's all right to, when we're purifying some habit, to just pick a little teeny piece of it and really do a power of restraint. Doing that is so powerful that it influences all the other seeds as well. And it'll get a little bit easier to do it for 30 seconds the next time, and then a whole minute. And then probably you're not going to get too much beyond 5 or 10 minutes before you just can't remember, who was it that was pushing that button, right? Things will shift when we do this with some powerful consistency. Habitual negativities don't go away on the first try, but they will change. They will lessen. They will be less uncomfortable, right? They might still happen. They might actually happen more, but rather than being so resistant of them, it's like, all right, another opportunity. So power of restraint. Yeshua has said that when we first start a regular purification practice, it's very common that it seems like more bad things happen to us than did even before. Like we're trying to purify so bad things won't happen, and doggone it, they get worse. And Geshe-la says, it's a sign that your purification is working. And it's a little hard to quite see how that works, but we're becoming more aware of the situations that bring on the mental affliction that we're trying to purify. So it seems like life is getting worse when it's just that we're noticing it more. And then when we notice it, we have the opportunity to use it instead of just get upset by it or, bitch and moan about it. Eventually, things get better. But I've had people who just so much yak poop kept hitting the fan. Life was decent until they met the Dharma. And then it was just like slam, 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 one thing after another. And they finally said, I can't take it anymore. I've got to back out. And it's like, I'm so sorry. It's like right on, you're right on. But I don't blame them. It just got too hard. The fourth of the four powers is Nyempo Kuntu Jupe Top, which is the antidote force. So when we're using our 4 R's, it's the remedy. So we have refuge, regret, restraint, and remedy. It means doing something specific to make up for the wrong deed that we're working to clean away. Geshe-la told us this story from his days with Khem Rinpoche, that there was a Mongolian man in that community who had been in the Vietnam War as an infantry, and he just machine gunned into the jungle. That was his job. And he said, I don't know if I ever killed anybody, but probably I did. And my intention was to kill the enemy. And, I had to do it. But now what do I do? Like, what can I do to make up for it? And Rinpoche knew this man's father, and that the father kept sheep to sell for slaughter, for meat. And Rinpoche gave this person the antidote: buy those sheep from your father and take care of them until they die a natural death. I guess sheep live 10 or 12 or 15 years. So, it's a big commitment. That the purification took longer than the deed that he did. He was probably only in the military for 3 years. But then the process is, this is the antidote, complete the antidote, complete the power of restraint, understanding refuge and having regret. And when that antidote is complete, right, the 4 parts of a path of action, know that you're clean. So there are 6 main traditional antidote powers that we can choose amongst. The first one is called the reciting holy names. And some of us have learned the 35 confession Buddha practice, and that falls into this category. In that practice, you set up this visualization of these 35 different Buddhas, each one of whom has pledged that when I become a Buddha, all anybody has to do is say my name, and they will get purified of, 1,000 years of pride, 1,000 eons of pride. They're very specific. And so you do your prostrations, you do your prayer, you make this confession, you say what it is you're trying to purify, you generate your regret, your refuge, your power of restraint, and your 35 confession Buddha practice is your antidote. And then, you might say, okay, I'm going to do 35 confession Buddha, every day for 6 weeks as this antidote for something, some habit that I have. And then at the end of the 6 weeks, I'm just going to stop and watch and see how my behavior has shifted, see how my immediate world has shifted. And if I need to go back and do it again, I'll do it again, right? We can assign ourselves these tasks. The second one is called recite holy mantra. For a mantra to be a holy mantra, we need to have received it from a holy being, and we must be keeping our morality well in order for our recitation of it to have the effect on our mind that we're wanting it to have. So, it is an antidote that if you've received the transmission of the Mani mantra or the Tara mantra or whatever, Buddha medicine Buddha mantra, you can use repetition of that as your antidote force. And again, you do it very specifically, not because the words have any power in them from them, right? We're using them as the antidote force. Then third is to study or read scriptures, particularly scriptures about emptiness, so Mahayana scripture, but here it says any scripture. It would be specific to the Buddhist scripture. And then the fourth is meditate on emptiness. And technically, this fourth one is the most powerful antidote, because understanding emptiness is, in fact, the only thing that will lead to a permanent change. The fifth one is to make offerings to holy objects. And we've heard Geshe Michael say the highest offering to your holy object is your success in your own practice. So when you've received a teaching and you actually put it into practice, even if your practice wasn't so perfect, to offer to them, I really did do my 4 powers for 6 weeks using my confession Buddha. Then frankly, I haven't seen much change yet, but I did what I set out to do, and I understood, right? All of that would be your offering to your holy object. Traditionally, it's water to drink, water to wash, right? All of those offering bowls. But more importantly is our practice effort. And then 6 is said you use holy images. So this is where at the beginning I said you could use a image of Lord Buddha, a statue or a tanka, something that represents Lord Buddha, a stupa. And like you sit in front of it and talk to it and tell them what the circumstance was, why you did what you did, explain now that you know why you're confessing it, why you want to damage it, your understanding of karma and emptiness, right? Go through your 4 powers out loud to your image. Mm. Within these 6 antidotes, there's um, a tantric practice called Vajrasattva, whose specialty is helping people purify. And in that practice, you do a visualization and you say that holy being's mantra. And so it's using a mantra and using the name of the holy being and using an image. And built into that is a section on meditating on emptiness. So, that's what it's for. It requires a ceremony, receiving a blessing to practice it. Some of us have it, some of us can give it. That it's not for everybody because it's involved, but because it has all these different factors, it's a very powerful method of making our antidote, because it's more than one at a time. So is the 35 confession in a way. All right. So Geshe-la says, wait, let's go back. So built into our meditation preliminaries is that clean out power. And, it just says, I confess my wrong deeds from all time. But when we learn those preliminaries, we learn how to apply the 4 powers right then, not in depth or detail, but swiftly and completely. And then you can say, and I use my meditation as my antidote, assuming your meditation's gonna include something about emptiness. Okay. So we have the 4 powers of purification built in to our daily practice if we're doing our meditation preliminaries. And that will carry us along. But at some point, we would want to sit down and kind of do a life review, and write out all the kind, special, amazing things that you have done in your life. Do the good ones first, please. And then make another list. It's like, oh, I criticized my sister and it hurt her feelings. Oh, I blame my brothers. Oh, right. Just write it all down. You're gonna burn it. Nobody's gonna see it but you and your angel. When you've put down as many as you can remember, you go back and you look for recurring themes. You look deeper into the situation, like, why did I act like that? Oh, because I was jealous. Oh, here's another jealousy. Oh, I didn't even know I was jealous. But now that I look back, oh man, jealousy. And so then if I look into my current life, where is that jealousy showing up? I can work more specifically on that jealousy, but I end up working on all of this life's jealousy at the same time. Maybe it was, oh, I had the habit of fibbing to get out of something. Oh, lying karma. Maybe I had, right? You'll see these different, maybe you come up with 2 or 3 patterns that have been ripening in this lifetime. And it gives us this clue as to how to start what would you call it? A process of purification where we're actually working on something specific. And, eventually you kind of get to where you're just working day to day. And the danger of getting on automatic pilot with our purification is we get sloppy. Like I'm confessing, my purification is sloppy now. And if we have a sequence that we're working on, we're less likely to get sloppy with it. Okay. All right. So Geshe-la says, learn how to do the 4 forces. And maybe for you, you find, no, the first force is regret. The instant I recognize, oh, I did it again, the regret comes up. And then from regret, you talk to yourself about the karma and emptiness, and then you talk yourself into your refuge. And then from there, maybe you say, whoa, what's my antidote going to be? And then from there, you remember, oh, and I need to do the power of restraint. What's that going to look like? So the order isn't so critical between refuge and regret and antidote and restraint. Those two can get swapped. But, it doesn't work you won't feel your antidote first thing, right? That it takes the regret and the refuge before we'll care at all about doing an antidote or a restraint. So whatever method inspires you, right, comes with ease. That's the purpose of these practices. It's like not to do them exactly the way the book has taught. Learn them exactly the way the book has taught, but then work with them until you have developed a system that you yourself can use, want to use, enjoy using. Otherwise, it's a burden, and it's like, it just makes me feel lousy and I don't want to do it. And I'm not going to do it if I don't want to do it. Okay. All right. So then we have this general confession prayer. It's sort of like icing on the cake. Don't quite have everybody, but. So I'd like to just give you the oral transmission. That means you just listen and let it pour into you, and it adds a little bit of power for when you use it. So I sent these files to everybody, so you have it. You're welcome to use it. So here's how it goes. The general confession. In sadness, I say this. I call on my Lama, the keeper of the diamond, and all the rest, all of the enlightened Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and all the community of pure beings in every corner of the universe. Please hear me. Here in the cycle of suffering, in an infinite string of lifetimes from time with no beginning up to the present moment, I state your name. Have come under the power of bad deeds. Under the power of bad thoughts. The thoughts of wanting, disliking, and ignorance. And so in my body, my speech, and my mind, I have done harmful things. I have done the 10 non-virtues. I have done the 5 great wrongs. And I have done the 5 which are close to them. I have broken my vows of freedom. I have broken my bodhisattva precepts. I have broken my secret commitments. I have disrespected my father and mother. I have disrespected the abbot and the master who gave me my vows. I have disrespected my fellow disciples. I have done things to hurt the three jewels. I have rejected the holy Dharma. I have belittled the community of higher beings. I have acted against all living kind. These and other harmful deeds, a great mountain of mistakes I have done. I have encouraged others to do them. I have been glad when others did them and more. In short, I speak of the entire mass of bad deeds and the breaking of my vows and commitments that ever I may have done. All those things which will prevent me from reaching the higher births and freedom itself. All those things which will continue to cause me pain in the circle of suffering. Here in the direct presence of my Lama, the keeper of the diamond and all the rest, before the enlightened Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and all the community of pure beings in every corner of the universe, I openly admit the things I have done. I hide nothing from you. I reveal all to you. And I swear that from this moment on, I will keep myself from all such deeds. By admitting all and revealing all, I shall be at peace. But not admitting and not revealing, I cannot be at peace. So we can see how just saying this prayer would not fix stuff. But using this prayer as a sort of a over, what would you call it? I'm missing a word here. A synopsis of our four powers when we have the four powers intact. It's helping us purify that deed from long time ago. Right? Because everything we could ever do negatively is included in this prayer since beginningless time. So maybe we've done none of them in this lifetime. Hooray. Okay. So let's take a break. What I intend to do in the second section is explain and demonstrate without the fire how to do a little fire puja purification. It's kind of nice to do a hands-on something sometimes, right? So much of what we do is heady, but to actually throw some seeds into the fire and hear them pop, it's like, ooh, wow, cool. So let's take a break and I'll see if I can pull that off. I'm pausing recording. Resume. Okay, so I also sent you the file that's called the Purification Puja Instructions. I keep these two together. Here's my confession prayer. Here's my fire puja, right? From when I didn't know how to do this, automatic. And the idea is that we establish our four powers of purification, and then we do establish our antidote and from the six main ones. But then in order to like get some embodied action of our purification. We make this little fire and we use black sesame seeds to represent the black seeds in our heart that we're wanting to clean out. And we use mustard seeds to represent the obstacles that we have to the opposite behavior, right? The goodness that we're wanting to grow. And to witness ourselves putting these negative habits into these black seeds and then throwing those black seeds into a fire and hearing them pop and burn is so, like, it's just more visceral. So it's a little baby version of the big fire puja that happens at Diamond Mountain. That fire puja is not, it is about cleaning up mistakes from our retreat. And it's about making all these offerings to help us gather the goodness for all those different qualities to arise in us. Each one of the offerings brings us a different quality. So this puja is more about cleaning out the seeds that we have in our heart and cleaning out the obstacles for the goodness that we want to grow in our heart, grow more of in our heart. So they say, get yourself a tin. Okay? This is a tea tin. Like any kind of tin will do. But you can see from the size of my hand and the size of the tin, right? The size. It could be a coffee can, but you don't want a wee little tea tin. I think this is an 8-ounce tin. Then it needs to have holes punched in it. Lots of holes punched in it so that the air can circulate, so that a little fire can burn. So I don't know how Sumati made these so symmetrical. He had some kind of a puncher, you know, but however you're going to do it. So you can see my fire puja tin is very well worn. You can't even see into that. It's so black. I haven't used it in a long time, but I used to use it a lot. So you also need a dish for your fire pit to sit in, because this is going to get hot. So the dish that your fire tin sits in needs to be, you know, fired clay. It could be metal, but then the metal's going to get hot, right? A fired clay won't get hot and it won't crack. So, you know, like a garden pot saucer, but ask if it's like just dried or fired. You want it fired. So to set up the instruction says put about a tablespoon of ghee in the can with several wood matches in the ghee. So you've got this lump of ghee down in the can and you've got matches stuck into it. But what I find is that doesn't work so well. So what I do is I take the ghee. I can't open it. There. And I take a nice big lump. And I take a wad of Kleenex. It could be paper, but I like Kleenex. And I put the ghee in the Kleenex. And then put that down in your fire pit. Because you can light the Kleenex on fire easily. Then I'm not going to light it on fire, so I don't have matches. But if you use wooden matches, you would stick 3 or 4 or 5 wooden matches down into the ghee so that the head is sticking up. And you've got this little, like you're making a little bonfire, tiny little bonfire. Then, ooh, look, the instructions say, write out the mental affliction that you're wanting to clean out. Put it on a piece of paper. Then also on a different piece of paper, write out the obstacle that keeps you from doing the opposite of the mental affliction. So say that the mental affliction is lying, the habit of, wiggling out of something by telling a little white lie or a big lie, whatever. And then, if we really wanted to stop lying, we just do it. And that might mean when I'm about to lie, I just don't say anything. But that's not very effective in life. So we're wanting to grow the opposite habit. And that means, being willing, ready, eager to say something truthful or not at all. Like to admit, I just didn't stop at the grocery store because I was tired. Instead of saying, oh, I got delayed and then I was late and then, right? The obstacle to being able to just be honest. And it would take a little bit of thinking about it. Like, why don't I just naturally be honest? We think it's going to bring us some kind of bad result. Oh, that person will judge us, or they still won't understand. They still won't believe me, right? Which would be likely the case if we're having seeds of lying. Even when we tell the truth, we're not believed. That's the result of lying. So there's no point in telling the truth because it doesn't work. It's like, right, because we lie. So the obstacle to the opposite behavior, you kind of identify it and write that down as well. So
sorry, Lama,
yes.
I didn't understand in this specific case, what is the obstacle? Like me not willing to
whatever
tell the
it
truth?
might be, right, for whatever it might be, right, for the individual.
Okay.
One would come up with their own understanding of why can't I do the opposite? Why can't I tell the truth all the time? And see if we can identify what's blocking that new habit. Okay.
And if we cannot pinpoint it, we can say all the obstacles.
Right. All the obstacles to telling the truth. Right.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So the next step then, I've got black everywhere, is you take your refuge, you generate your bodhicitta. And then you take a handful of your black sesame seeds. Black sesame seeds. A little handful. And you hold them at your heart. And you're thinking about that habit, that deed, that behavior that you're wanting to clean out. You're thinking of it like it's lots of these black seeds deep within your heart, not your heart organ, but the heart center of your chest. And you think through the circumstances that make us do that deed repeatedly. And then you really meditate on that mental affliction, like the specifics of it, a recent occurrence of it, and the circumstances that were happening that seem to make you do it. Like, tell yourself the story. Tell yourself why you justified that reaction. And then tell yourself why you regret it. Grow that regret. Grow the refuge. And when you have it all, the picture all clear, then you breathe onto these seeds. Right? You can hold them up close, you can hold them at your heart, but you imagine that you're breathing the negative seeds from your heart into these actual seeds that you have in your hand. And if you're a visualizer, see that black gunk deep in your chest and see it getting blown into these black things until as you're looking inside your chest, it's like, whoa, I think I've got them all. And then you put them onto your pile, your Kleenex and your oil. And they go all over your computer. So the first handful is already in there. You can't really see it. This is how we were instructed to do it. I have modified it for my own personal use in that I don't put the seeds in first. But in the instruction to do it this way, you have your initial, like the initial event that you're purifying. Those seeds are in the can. And then you think of emptiness as you strike your match. Like the light of this match is my wisdom. And you put that wisdom into the can. The Kleenex will light. The ghee will start to light. The extra little matches will flare up and light. I find it usually takes more than one match to get it all going. And as you have a nice little bonfire inside your tin, the seeds that are already in there will start to pop. Geshe-la likes to do it this way. The seeds are in there. You light the fire of your wisdom and you put it on them. I find that my seeds are spread all around the can, and so they don't get to popping. So I like to think it all through with the seeds in my hand, blow it all into those seeds. But before I put the seeds in the can, I bring to mind my understanding of the emptiness of the three spheres of that particular situation. And then I light the match. And it's like, here's my wisdom that understands. And I get the fire going first. There's my wisdom, right? And then I take the seeds that have my mental affliction in and I sprinkle them down in, and they go right into the fire already burning, and they go pop, 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 pop. Then you take more black seeds and you hold them and you think back through this life month ago, and you blow the seeds from some similar deed or deeds done then into the seeds. Maybe go back further. Go back further. And then when you feel like, okay, I've got all of this life's seeds done, into the fire. Pop, 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 pop. Take another handful. Man, I must have had lifetimes in which I thought that was the right thing to do. Those seeds into the black seeds. Do you get it? You just keep working on the same seeds from the recent deed, going back and back and back and back until you're like, I can't do this anymore, right? Enough, I'm out of time, or I'm out of seeds. Wouldn't that be great? Into the fire. Okay. So if you put them in the fire, like huge thing, it will put the fire out. So you have to sprinkle them a little bit at a time. And if the fire is starting to go out, get more Kleenex, a little more ghee if you need to, right? Whatever you need to do to get your fire back again. Because it's very common that we throw our seeds in and it smothers the fire. So just be careful with that. So then you take the piece of paper that has that mental affliction on it, and you look at it and you go, Ray, I have burnt off those seeds, done. And you put it in the fire and watch it burn. You know, it shrivels, it wrinkles, it catches on fire, it turns to ash. Like really feel done. Then you switch to the obstacle. For the obstacle, you take the handful of brown mustard seed. Right, in the same way, little brown mustard seeds. You hold them at your heart. You meditate on your selected obstacle, the specifics of it from that day, or whatever the time frame is that you're doing this fire puja for. Talk to yourself about that new behavior you want to grow and what seems to be blocking you from being able to do that. Identify that obstacle as these little brown seeds inside your heart. Technically, they're not brown. The others aren't black either, but it helps us. And then blow those obstacles from your heart into these seeds. And when you have it, feels like it's complete for that particular event, you sprinkle them into the fire. Again, they went all over everywhere. And they pop also in this very satisfying way. Then you take more. And you think about earlier in life, you know, I had obstacles to growing this good habit, or I'd have it already. You know, and here are ways that it happened, and etc. Blow those seeds into these seeds, burn them up. Lifetimes, burn them up. When we feel like we're complete, take the little piece of paper. And again, identify it. Imagine what life will be like when you don't have obstacles to that new behavior and you no longer have the seeds for the negative behavior. Think what you'll be like. And then that goes into the fire. Watch those obstacles, the name of the obstacles burn up. So you're done. You still have the fire going. The instruction is to stay there watching the fire, offering what you've just done to the Buddhas, offering the fire to the Buddhas, rejoicing in the goodness that you've done, so that you end on this positive note. Like I'm clean. And you're supposed to stay there with the fire until it burns out. And you'll get familiar with how much ghee burns for how long. Like, I don't remember that anymore because it's like, I gotta go. I can't sit here and wait for it. And, you know, as long as it's in a safe place, you could leave it, but right, best is to stay there until the fire sputters out. And then let it cool down. And when it's all cool, you take the ashes, you can put them around a base of a tree. Ashes is good for plants, or a shrub, or you can put them into a body of water if you have access to a body of water, so that your can is ready to go for the next time. And you finish off with your favorite prayer of dedication. You know, before you dump the ashes, clearly, you finish with your prayer of dedication. And that's the fire puja instruction. Sumati and I, during retreat, we did it a little bit differently. On our sojong, we would get out our vows cards. You know, we've got like 300 some odd vows, and we would have sesame seeds, a bowl of sesame seeds, a bowl of mustard seeds, and a bowl of rice. And we would read the vow, like starting with the refuge advices. And we'd read the first one and we'd stop and think, you know, if I can honestly say, you know, I kept that well, then I would take a little bit of rice and throw it in the fire. And if it's like, oh no, I didn't keep it, I would take black seeds and throw them in the fire. And it's like, yeah, I didn't do it, but I had obstacles to its opposite, mustard seed in the fire. And we would go through each one, deciding black, mustard, or white. And we found that to be a powerful way of going through all of our vows. But it's not sufficient for changing mental affliction habits, right? So if we were working on the habit of, I don't know, criticizing somebody when they criticize me, that just the black seed, brown seed, white seed wouldn't be strong enough. I would want to do this whole specific to that habit of criticizing. And what's the obstacle to being able to praise somebody in the situation where they're criticizing me? Like, it doesn't even feel human to do that. So to work with the fire puja in a more specific way, works in this method, being very, very clear, using the black seeds to clear out the negativity and the brown seeds to clear out the obstacles. Okay, now Luisa, you've had a question.
It happened to me sometimes that I have done the fire puya. That let's say I write something, I don't know, anger towards whoever's, and then I throw it in the fire and it doesn't burn the paper.
I know.
Like it stays the anger word without burning. And then I'm like, what is this? Is it like, should I take it out and throw it again, or what? Or is it just like it didn't work, or how to interpret that?
Yeah, I guess I would interpret it as do another fire puja on another day on the anger. Right? Do it again. Do it again, do it again, do it again until that paper burns. Yeah.
And then a more general question, and sorry if you explained that, but I came late to the session. How I have never had the feeling of that the purification is done. I mean the four powers, because Geshe-la used to say you feel like now it's okay, but I have never felt like it's okay regardless of whatever I have tried.
Me neither.
So I don't know if I
Yeah.
should do it forever, or how to proceed.
Right, right. So when we finish and we say, intellectually, I know that I have done this purification and I have damaged those seeds. Intellectually, I know. I admit I'm not feeling clean yet. Just be clear with yourself. And the seeds of that honesty will grow and help us reach that point where we will reach a time when it's like, oh, I just don't see that behavior bubbling up in me anymore. It won't probably be an aha until we look back at ourselves later, right? But do have the thought, oh, I am clean. I don't feel it yet, but I know I am getting there, right? That's okay.
Sorry, Laman, another question to the 35 confession Buddhas, because in the instructions you say you should do 3 times, no? Like 3 rounds. of the 35
Right,
to have at the end, I forgot.
108,
108. Yeah.
right.
And then is it okay because this is what I have done? I don't do the whole one time and then the whole second time. So I do 3 prostration per Buddha at once. Like I do the first part, like I would call it the introduction. And then
Right,
when I start to mention the Buddhas, then I do for this Buddha 3 prostration. The next one 3 prostration, the next one 3 prostrations, and then in total is going to be the 108.
do you say their
I
mantra,
said
their
what
prayers
I say. I
3
say
times?
I bow down to the Buddha, the one who have
Mm.
gone that way, and then I do the prostration. And then I do it 3 times per Buddha, but
With the words,
with the words. I
not
can
just the
repeat.
prostration with the words. That's
No,
fine. That's fine.
it's
That's how
just
I
that I
do
don't do
it.
the beginning again and then the
Yeah,
end again.
that's okay.
Is that okay? Okay,
Mm.
thank you.
Anything else? All right. That's what I had to share. The other file that I shared was the reading from the practice module called the 4 Powers of Purification. And it has greater detail about the 4 R's that you can benefit from, I hope.
Lama, can we set the logistic
The
part of
date,
the
yes. So we'll start course 6, September. September 5, Thursday, September 5. So for sure, we need your papers done before then. But that's, a really long time from now. So I would really recommend that we say, this is the middle of July. What if we say August 15? Gives you a whole month.
Yeah.
Is that all right? So again, Louisa will coordinate for us. Thank you so much. I know you're up to your ears and stuff.
No, it's okay. I need to do some good things
Yes, good.
to
Good.
keep up with the bad ones.
Right. So you'll get your finals done. You'll, assign who grades your final for you, you do for somebody else. Get them all submitted. Make sure you have meditation times marked. And they'll go off to the dean and you'll get your certificate.
We haven't gotten yet the one from the ACI 4.
You haven't.
No. Maybe I will write to the
Please,
dean
please.
and ask her. Maybe there is a lot, I don't know.
Yeah, no, ask her. I thought I saw that she had said I will get these processed, so I wonder if
Yeah,
something,
she said that, but she
yeah,
didn't send. It's not yet
but I
finished.
wonder if something happened that it got lost or off her computer or something. So it's okay
I will
to
ask
nudge.
her.
Yeah, it's okay to nudge.
Okay,
So
so
remember
August 15. Sorry,
August
Lama.
15th, August
I will
August
send
15th. Yeah,
them the email to everybody and
okay,
put you on CC.
great, thank you. Yeah. So remember that person we wanted to be able to help? We learned stuff that we will use to help them in that deep and ultimate way. And that's an extraordinary goodness. So please be happy with yourself And think of this goodness like a beautiful glowing gemstone that you can hold in your hands. Recall your own precious holy guide. See how happy they are with you. Feel your gratitude to them, your reliance upon them. Ask them to please stay close, to continue to guide you, help you, inspire you, and then offer them this gemstone of goodness. See them accept it and bless it, and then carry it with them right back into your heart. See them there, feel them there. Their love, their compassion, their wisdom. It feels so good. We want to keep it forever. And so we know to share it. By the power of the goodness that we've just done, may all beings complete the collection of merit and wisdom, and thus gain the two ultimate bodies that merit and wisdom make. So use those 3 long exhales to share this goodness with that one person. To share it with everyone you love. To share it with every being you've ever seen or heard of. See them all filled with happiness, filled with wisdom, filled with loving kindness. And may it be so. All right, congratulations.
May I say something, Lama, in
Yes.
representation from the group? I'm sorry, I'm taking if someone else wants to say also. Um, for me, this course was very relevant, although my time was very limited to invest as I wish. I am not going to forget it, especially because my husband started, but my seats didn't last for him
Oh,
to continue.
ah,
However, it shows that if you are patient, things will ripen. And then I could see it like from my husband who was rejecting this to now he asking me questions and discussing with me on the dinner about karma. So I really thank you for being an inspiration and for being patient with us with the delays with our homeworks and quizzes and etc. And we collected some group offering that I already transferred to you. I hope it
yes.
arrived, and thanks to everybody. And I want to take also the opportunity to thank especially to Joanna because her transcription of the course is so helpful that sometimes I couldn't join the class, or I was joining and falling asleep in the middle, and then just by reading the transcription I could understand and try to answer the quizzes and homework. So thank you, Joanna,
Mm,
for that hard work for us.
mm,
Yeah, so please, Lama, keep teaching us and help us to
yes.
overcome all these afflictions.
Yes. And big thanks to Flavia, right, for
Yeah,
translating
that's
for
true.
us. Yay. Yeah. And Olga for tonight. Okay. Alrighty. So yeah, I'll You know, my usual announcement, let me know if you want to be on the list for ACI 6 so I can start my new contact group. I'll do that shortly because I don't want to, I'll be gone all of August, so we'll have it all set up before I go away. Okay. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm stopping recording.